Okay, this is an informal meeting, a testimony meeting, and soon we'll have our meeting open for the sharing of testimonies. And I'd like to remind everyone that you should keep your comments within 4 minutes so that everyone will have an opportunity to share their offering tonight. And for those that are on, this is done by teleconference if you don't happen to be here in Plainfield. For those on the teleconference, when you're ready, press star 1, listen for the acknowledgement message that your hand is raised. But before you do that, make sure there's no noise where you are, otherwise we will hear you. And when we're ready here, we'll call on you. Before we get started, I'd like to read from the church manual, the section entitled Testimonials. Glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. St. Paul. Testimony in regard to the healing of the sick is highly important. More than a mere rehearsal of blessings, it scales the pinnacle of praise and illustrates the demonstration of Christ who healeth all thy diseases. This testimony, however, shall not include a description of symptoms or of suffering, though the generic name of the disease may be indicated. And now I'd like to open the meeting for sharing of healings through Christian Science.
I would like to thank God and Christian Science for saving my life. Probably about 20 years ago, I was rushed to a hospital hemorrhaging. A practitioner was called and the bleeding stopped. That kind of baffled the medical profession, and they did some tests and they could not figure out why. I was weak, but all the love of the members came in to visit, some bringing food, and within 2 days they let me out and said, "We don't know what happened, but you're fine." My strength was back. I was able to walk out. The doctor said to me, he had met the practitioner, and he said, "I'm not sure what it is," but he said, "Your life was saved through her." And that was the power of God working through the practitioner. Well, several days after I was home, I lived in a multi-family house, and everybody was raking leaves. Well, everybody tired out, and I was still going. The healing was complete and fast. I am so grateful to God, to Mary Bakeretti for giving us this science, and this is not an isolated incident. It is available to all. God heals. And I'm grateful to the practitioner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your reading, and also thanks to AC for her reading too. It was inspiring. Today, I was reflecting on some events that had took place in my life that have actually led to me coming here. It makes me to be more grateful, knowing that if you are trusting God, He will never leave you and let you be in danger. One in particular that I want to express this evening, which I think I will still write down in more detail for Carlos to publish in the magazine, but I will just briefly express that to some of you. Leading to my coming here, that was a few years ago. I was involved in the missionary work in West Africa. And during that time, I knew so little about West Africa, even though I'm from West Africa, but I came from a very remote area, so I didn't really know very much about the place that I was actually going with friends. But I was so, I have so much excitement about getting involved in such wonderful work. And during that time in the missionary work, it was wonderful. Every part of it was wonderful. I just cannot explain, the blessing that came out of it. But in the middle of it, an incident happened, which happened here in the U.S. That was in September 11, 2001. And it happened when we were over there, and then it changes the dynamic of everything missionaries, including myself and other people we are doing. There were thousands of us over there, of course, but it changes everything. Environment, it put our life in danger, very, very severe danger. And we just could not leave our work because we have to accomplish what we are doing, and we love doing it. But during that time, I never lacked in my faith to God. I knew faithfully that God was watching all over us, me and the rest of everybody in the field, protecting us, no matter what the danger is. Even the danger, we can actually see the danger. I mean, they were right there in front of us, speaking to us like every day, but we were never afraid of it. God was there with us, and I remember a few incidents where I got involved with some of these dangers. I never, afraid of my life or anything, because I knew that God is right there. He will never let anything to touch me or harm me or anybody. So all our work was accomplished, and God brought me back from that environment unharmed, untouched. It was remarkable. And the thousands of people that I left behind, we are still there. Even some of them are still there today doing this work. It's just amazing. I just want to encourage everybody out there, in case you are wondering about things like this, don't worry about it, because if you are doing the right thing, God is right there with you. He will protect you. He never let anything to touch you. He didn't let anything touch me. It was a very dangerous situation because I was in a country, Mauritania, some of you may know it, may have heard about it. It was 100% Islamic and Arabic, and they heard Christianity, and we brought this to them, and many of them loved us. They wanted to hear about Jesus Christ, and 90% of the people that I spoke to, they never heard about Jesus before, they never heard about God. And I was happy that I was among the people who actually brought this gospel to them. And I was sure that God was happy with us for bringing this gospel to this remote part of the world. And for that reason, He was there to protect every single one of us. I mean, there were thousands of us in that country at that time. Nobody was taken away from us, except a family that was shot. They happens to be Americans. This family was shot. But apart from that, they were taken care of, and they came back. And they're still living in that country now because the whole family were born over there, and they're still doing this wonderful work. I mean, thinking about them now, I mean, they inspired me, even though I can't see them now, but knowing that they are there doing this work. And God is right there with them, protecting them, and protecting everyone who is going back there to join this wonderful work. It's just amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to add something to my testimony. The doctor, when they did tests, my hemoglobin was 2, and it's supposed to be, at that time, 16, the doctor said. And he said, humanly, there was no way I should have been alive. But it was because of being a member of this church, the love and the power of God in Christian Science. And I'm just so grateful. And when I left, it was normal due to the prayers and the power of God. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim from Arizona, go ahead.
Thank you. I wish to show my gratitude and appreciation to our practitioners. They are always ready and always willing to help us when we need. Yesterday afternoon, for some strange reason, I lost my balance and was about to fall, and I was able to catch hold of the counter in the kitchen and prevent the fall. This morning, I called a practitioner and was suggested that I review Psalms 91 and apply it to me. And also, the very first sentence in our textbook I was reminded of, and to apply that to me. To those leaning on the sustaining infinite, today is big with blessings. I am so grateful for our practitioners and all they do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for those readings, Elsie and Bruce, and the great protection and direction that I've been given in this church. I always tried to consider myself a simple person, but there have been times when I have needs, and it's like everybody else, financial or just human needs, and they've been met. And I love the hymns. They've always come to mind whenever it seemed to be something missing, and filled up that void, and then it was whatever I needed to do. I love the hymn, Day by Day the Manna Fell. God, at a time, I thought I needed some money. God showed me that I had some property that other people wanted, and connected me with practitioner support. I'm sure I asked for it. And it came that other people wanted it and made it available and a good arrangement. And I expect it to work out fine on behalf of my family. And I love the hymn 51, Love and Love's Work Must Fit. Just sort of calmed me whenever I had to make a transition from one job to another. And the hymn 160, It Matters Not What Be Thy Lot, by Mary Baker Eddy. Because, she's proven all of this before, and with all these great examples, it just feels so certain that, hey, as long as you got love in your heart, you're doing right, everything is going to be right. So just kind of go on and enjoy the ride. But it's great to have the protection of this church and the practitioners. I include in that when I'm around these guys and everybody here, I make better decisions than when I'm not. And it sounds funny, but I really don't. I know that you got to be with God. It's so easy to think you're doing the right thing and not be doing the right thing. But if I get back to church and I pray and I say, okay, yeah, this is the right thing to do. Something where I originally may have thought was the right thing, clearly was wrong. I thank this place and the ability to be together and to be stronger before it. Mary Baker Eddy.
Thank you. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. I am grateful for everything and everybody involved with the Plainfield Church, but especially tonight for the November Liberator. Particular help arrived after I read Jeremy Palmer's reply, which led me to Parsons' article on page 23 of the Liberator, which then led me to Mary Baker Eddy's writing and miscellaneous writings of the 1893 article. The subject was obedience, and that's on page 116. She says here, self-ignorance, self-will, self-righteousness, lust, covetousness, envy, revenge are foes to grace, peace, and progress. They must be met manfully and overcome, or they will uproot all happiness. Be of good cheer. The warfare with oneself is grand. It gives one plenty of employment, and the divine principle worketh with you, and obedience crowns persistent effort with everlasting victory. Thank you, Plainfield Church, for all that I am learning. Obedience. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Elizabeth from Georgia, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Last week's lessons on gratitude have really resonated with me, and I just wanted to express gratitude for that. How important it is to thank God daily and hourly, and yet that is something that I have neglected to do in the past. And I wanted to share what struck me from an article by Herbert Eustace that is on the website, on the carousel. And he says in it, how many times do we allow error to whisper to us when some prayer is answered that it just happened that way, or that we should have gotten well anyway, and we look no further than this? We are content that we have what we wanted, or that we are well. Our prayer of thanksgiving is not made, and we have robbed God of what rightfully belongs to him, the grateful heart. And we have furthermore denied the Bible, where it tells us that every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights. And when I read the part about how many times we convince ourselves that it just happens that way, it just jolted me, because I've been so guilty of that in my life. So I'm just thankful to uncover this awful habit and to learn to give God all the due for every instance of good in my life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before coming here, I never had an issue telling people what I thought. I was pretty straightforward and far too okay with being rude. And then my life fell apart and God brought me here. One of the very first weekly lessons that I was present for, it was made clear how Jesus didn't simply talk to people or force his thought on others. Rather, he used his words to heal. That was a powerful lesson for me, and one I am so grateful for. Because of this, I try to make sure that I always speak in a loving manner. It isn't always practical to act like you're talking to an infant, though, because we need to make sure we maintain the standard of principle to the best of our abilities. And finding that line is tough for me, but I know I'm in the right place and I have the right practitioner to learn how to do it. I'm also grateful because I heard tonight that even though we've had website issues this week, many of the websites that use our same host are completely offline. To me, this is proof that our watchers are doing their work and that God is good. Thank you all for your patience this week and your vigilance every week. What a blessing it is to be here.
Thank you. Day from Maryland, go ahead.
Thank you. This week's watching point found on the Plainfield website states, your trust in God must increase each day. You may start by considering God as a spare tire to be used in an emergency. The time must come, however, when you rely entirely on divine mind. While reading this, I thought of how it applies to me. There was a time when I only acknowledged God during church and on special occasions, and eventually I began to call on him, hoping for quick healing or salvation in an emergency. This week I had a project that required me to create a website, and while developing the site, I somehow lost all of the content because I hadn't saved it properly. Though I didn't panic immediately, I slowly became frustrated at the thought of having to start all over. While I remained frustrated, I knew I had to overcome the feeling. So I began to thank God for his guidance and for the lesson I would learn while overcoming the challenge. I had started my work by asking God to show me what to do, so I reassured myself that he would carry me the rest of the way. I was also sure that if His will required me to start over, the outcome could only be better than before. I started again about 30 minutes later, still feeling a little frustrated, but doing my best to trust in God's care. I am so grateful for this challenge that tempted me to give up and turn away from God, and rather resulted in me trusting Him more. The website turned out 100% better than before, and I was able to get much more done in less time. I'm thankful for all that God is showing me and for all that He is doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there's nothing too small to thank God for, and nothing happens just by luck or chance. On Sunday, driving to church, I noticed one of my earrings was practically falling out of my ear. So when I got here, before I got out of my car, I fixed it and went in. And then after the service, I went by a mirror and I noticed that earring was gone. So I looked all through the church because I've been around a lot of places and I couldn't find it. And when I left after the service, going out to my car, I was looking, and there it was on the ground right next to my car. And I just thanked God so much. The backing was not there, but the other part of the earring was there. 2 days later, I came to church to do something, and coming in the back door, there's a mat on the carpet to protect it, and I was straightening it out, and I lifted it up, and there was the backing to the earring. On Sunday, when I came in the back door, I was doing the same thing. I was straightening it out, and it must have fallen off my clothing or something. Well, I was just beside myself with gratitude to God. And throughout the whole thing, I kept thinking that God takes us all the way, and nothing is lost in divine mind. Well, that was the full proof. Nothing is too small. God is with me every moment, and He has blessed me beyond words with His love, and I am just so grateful. And thank you for your wonderful readings.
Thank you. Well, I had an experience this last week that I had to get on my knees and thank God for. And, well, it goes like this. I went to a local home improvement center because I needed to buy a small piece of hardware. And I went in there thinking, oh, I'm sure I'll be able to find this. And I started looking frantically up and down the aisles. Couldn't find it. And so then I went to find somebody who worked there and explained what I was looking for. And he says, well, it's right there in that aisle. It really is there, but I can't show it to you because I'm busy looking at helping some other customer right now. I walked away and I said, you know what? I didn't ask God to show me the way. And right then I just apologized to God. Now, God, you show me. I mean, I'm grateful for what this man told me. He gave me the assurance that the thing really is there. But show me where it is. And the message that came back was, you know, if you would follow me, you would have found it. And a little bit of thanks would have been nice too, instead of just frantically looking around. So, very humbly and on my knees, I went back to the aisle. And God did show me where it was. And I'm grateful for this lesson that this would have been found by listening instead of by frantic looking. So I'm thanking God and trying hard every day to listen to Him more instead of just going off and doing things. So I was very grateful for that lesson and thankful for what it taught me.
I missed something in my testimony that I think is very important for everybody to know. During that time, we were in the missionary work. It was also the time that I actually purchased my first Science and Health. I purchased it when I was over there. And even though I didn't know much about this church or the religion, but the book was very, very powerful. And I believe it was helpful to me that time too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sometimes it is good to look back and see where we came from and how we got to where we are and be grateful to God for it. I know when God led me to the Plainfield Church, it really was an answer to prayer, a longing on my part to know God better in Christian Science. I'd grown up attending Christian Science Sunday schools in Seattle and Portland, read the textbook, and I knew that there was something wonderful, powerful in this book. In my heart, I knew that God healed, but that's kind of where it sat, because there was a disconnect between what I felt reading the book and what was in my heart, and what I saw being lived in the churches that I attended, the Boston affiliated churches. And that continued until I found a practitioner in Plainfield. She healed. She healed me of one thing after another. Illnesses were healed quickly. Problems with family, with business, were all healed through Christian Science prayer. And with each healing, I could feel the same tremendous power that I felt when I read the textbook as a child. It was the power of God. And I knew that I had found what I had been longing for. It was so different from anything I'd ever experienced that my wife and I moved here from California. And we've never looked back, because it didn't stop there. The practitioner kept teaching, kept healing and teaching, and taught me the importance of growing spiritually. She taught me that Christian Science is not something you take off the shelf when you want to fix, when you've got a problem, but that it is a way of life that has to be lived every day. And it's the only way to have a meaningful life. The only way. So this is so different from anything else I have ever seen or experienced. It has always proved to itself, to me, that it is the truth. I am so grateful to have found the truth. I'm so grateful to Mary Baker Eddy for devoting her life to giving us the science of Christianity. I'm so grateful to that practitioner who attracted me to this science in the first place. So grateful to be here among all of you.
Thank you. Connie from Texas, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce and Elsie, for those readings. I want to express gratitude to Plainfield for all the opportunities that we have to do church work. I had a little vision this morning. What if every branch church was like Plainfield and people were doing meaningful work? The work we do at Plainfield means something. There's a lot of work to be done in branch churches, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just busy work. And there is no spiritual growth going on there. And so I'm so grateful for the opportunities that we have for spiritual growth, to learn, for Bible study, where in branch churches you're not allowed to talk about that. You can't discuss the lesson. It just isn't done. There's no opportunity to advance. It's just amazing. What if every church was like Plainfield? It would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tonight, when I was praying over something, I turned to In Lessons of the Seventh Day by Mrs. Eddy. When you lose your life in sense, for life is soul, the disease, pain, suffering will cease. That is why we seem to suffer, for we have not lost our life in matter, for our life in soul. Thought about this very deeply because often I hear of suffering, pain, other things like that. So what is that? It is a belief that we were born into matter, we will die out of it, that our life is material, but it is not. Our life is in God. And we have been taught here in the morning, very first thing to know, God is life, God is my life, God is the only pure and perfect life. And then we have all day to think about that and to prove it. If we feel a pain in our body, it can turn us back to know that no, our life is not in matter, it is in God, in painless being. It's just a reminder to turn us back to the very fact that our life is in God and it is immortal. And each time we do that, we are overcoming all the errors of the senses and becoming victors. And if we do it in the smaller ways, if a bigger way comes up, we'll be much more prepared to meet it triumphantly with God. I am grateful for this church. I'm certainly grateful for all that I've learned here. It is a place where we have many avenues in which to express God, to learn more of God, to learn more about demonstrating what His will is in our lives. And in this way, we help and bless all mankind. So grateful to be here tonight. Good to hear those readings.